to the Daring Living podcast, where it's all about personal growth, honest conversations, and exploring what it means to live a passionate, daring life. I'm your host, Shirley Huang. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first episode of the Daring Living podcast. I am honestly so excited to be here recording this, and I'm so thankful to have you listening right now. So here's a fun fact. I am actually recording this episode in my sister's closet because I realized that there's just nowhere else in the place right now that is very quiet and also small enough to prevent echo in the place. So it's either that or in the car. So I think this will have to do for a while. So I want to start off the first episode by exploring the concept behind daring living, which is the name of this podcast and also my online blog, what my definition of this term is, and how we can all start living a more daring life. When I think of living a daring life, I think of it as really an intentional way of living that is on a much deeper level. I created my blog at a period of life where I was just feeling like life was meaningless. And it got to a point where, honestly, I really struggled to get up every day and I didn't find any joy in doing anything. I started having insomnia. I couldn't sleep at night. For a while, I didn't know what was the point of eating, what was the point of drinking, of talking with people. I just didn't find joy in anything. I remember asking myself, is this it? Is it all that life is? Because I was just feeling so empty and so purposeless inside. So it sounds a little bit exaggerating now talking about this, but at the time it was actually a very dark time in my life. And this is when I started diving into self-help. I started listening to personal development related podcasts and reading books, basically anything I can get my hands on. Honestly, now thinking back, diving into the personal development world, it really saved me. It made me realize that there is so much more in life that you can do and experience. And I really just felt so called to create this blog, to create Daring Living, because I didn't think I had a choice. Something was telling me to do this. Daring Living is for you if you just want something more out of life. It is for those who refuse to live through life on autopilot. It embodies everything that I want to become, and my hope is that by sharing with you some of my own journey, tips and resources that I've learned along the way, hopefully they can inspire you to take actions in your own life as well. So before I continue, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge the fact that I am privileged. I think this is something in the personal development world that a lot of people do not talk about. We should never compare with each other because we start our journey all at different stages. I live with a rooftop over my head, and I didn't have to worry about not having food to eat at the table growing up. I grew up in a safe and loving family environment, and the fact that I am able to even have the choice to decide to follow my passion, to do what I really love to do, recording this podcast, just having this choice in itself, this is a privilege. So I just want to acknowledge this and to let you know that this is my background and this is where I'm coming from. If whatever I share in this show, they do not resonate with you, that is completely okay. This show is definitely not for everyone. And chances are, if you are listening to this podcast right now, you also have some kind of privilege, one way or another. So don't take those for granted, right? Because a lot of people out there, they will literally wish that they can be in your position right now. So today, I want to share with you 3 simple ways that you can start living a daring life. My first tip is this: admit right now that you are fully responsible for your life. Yes, I said it. You have to admit right now and believe that you are in full control and that you have full ownership of your life. So why do I say this? Well, a lot of the times when life gets hard, we fall into victim mode. We start thinking, why is this happening to me? Why does everything have to be so hard? And we blame it on other people rather than owning up to it. I was super guilty of this. Back in school, when I didn't get the grade I wanted, I would blame it on the teacher or on the school scoring system. If I didn't get that job that I wanted, then I would blame it on the interviewer or say that it's just too competitive. And I hate to admit this, but when I wasn't happy with where I was in my life, I blame it on my upbringing. I would blame it on my parents, and I blame it on how I was raised growing up. Why do we do this? Why do we keep on blaming our problems onto other people instead of owning up to it? Because it helps us justify everything for being the way that it is. It helps us justify that we can't do anything about it. We can't change it. It's not our problem. It's theirs. And therefore, we have no control. So, really be very mindful of how often you're doing this, right? Because every time when you blame something for happening in your life on other people or on external factors, you are basically giving your power away. You are saying that you have no power to change anything in your life, and you make it reality, and you think that it is the truth. And this is very dangerous because if you keep on believing this, nothing will ever change in your life, right? Nowadays, whenever I catch myself thinking that I'm powerless and I can't change anything, something I would do is I would look around at where I am now. Would you believe me if I told you that everything that's around you right now, you created all of that? You created that. It doesn't matter if you are maybe at home cooking right now, or you're working out at the gym, or you're driving. Be careful, by the way, if you're driving. You put yourself in that situation. Look at what you're wearing right now. You bought those clothes that you're wearing, or you decided to put those clothes on. You chose the food that you eat. The furniture in your house, maybe you placed them there, or you brought those into your room, right? So my friend, you actually have so much more power than you realize. If you really want to create a life you desire, a dream life that you really want for yourself, you have to start taking back that ownership. Because at the end of the day, this is your life. No one is living it for you. This life is yours. It's yours only. You are so much more powerful than you realize. And all you have to do right now is to admit that you are fully responsible for it, and that you can actually start taking actions and treat it as the dream life that you desire. So the second tip I have for you to start living a daring life is to understand yourself more. So you might be thinking, oh, that's it, Shirley? You just understand yourself? Well, I cannot emphasize how important self-awareness is in order to create your dream life and to live daringly. Even when I've been consciously practicing strengthening my own self-awareness, I still don't think that I have completely understood myself. And in fact, I think it's always going to be a process, because as time passes, we also change and we grow, and our thoughts also change, and maybe what's important to us changes over time. So I think the process of understanding yourself is always a constant practice. And I understand some people choose not to understand themselves so much, because I get it, it can be a little bit uncomfortable and painful sometimes even. No one wants to admit their mistakes and see their weaknesses. Some people choose not to face what they're actually afraid of and what actually triggers them. No one wants to feel uncomfortable and to feel pain. And the result of that is that we choose to hide from it instead. So we choose to buffer out those emotions, those feelings, buffer out what we're actually thinking. We choose to buffer them out by scrolling on social media, watching Netflix, binge eating, shopping, alcohol, basically just doing anything to prevent us from facing our actual problems, right? To prevent us from really trying to understand ourselves and trying to understand what is going on. So it's fine if you sometimes choose these instant pleasures to maybe make you feel better at that moment. But really be aware, because if you do it too often, then you can become addicted to it. And then what does that mean? Then it means that you are living through your life on autopilot, right? You're not really diving into the root of the problem and really figuring out who you are and what you really want. The moment when you can really understand more about yourself, I think that is when all the good stuff happens. Because when you really understand yourself, you know what you need to improve on. You are essentially opening up the door to how you can become better, right? And then that is when you get to explore all the other fun things, such as knowing what you are good at, understanding what fires you up, what makes you feel excited, what makes you feel successful. What is your definition of success? What does success look like for you? What kind of impact do you want to make in this world? And ultimately, what is really your life purpose? So only when you have this kind of clarity can you deliberately go for those things that are important to you and that really align with the things that you want, and really design that life that's meant for you. I once read this quote, I'm not sure what it was from. It really resonated with me. It says, if you don't know where you are going, you will never know when you arrive. So you really have to have clarity. So one way that I do to practice self-awareness is to simply journal all my thoughts. It depends on where I am. Sometimes I write all my thoughts on paper. Sometimes I just if I don't have a paper with me, then I just quickly take out my phone and then put my thoughts out, type it out in a notepad or something. Doing this really allows me to step out of my head and to really look at my thoughts and what I'm actually thinking from an outside perspective. This is a great way to decipher what you are actually thinking, and also a great way to just practicing expressing yourself. Another way I would recommend for developing self-awareness is to just get into personal development type books or podcasts. So 2 classic self-help books I would recommend is one is called The 4 Agreements, A Practical Guide to Personal Freedom. This is actually, I think, one of the first personal development books that I read, and it has opened up my mind. So definitely go read that. And the second one is also a classic. It's You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero. I love that book. So I will leave these 2 books in the show notes so you can check it out. So the third tip I have for you today to begin living a daring life is to practice courage. Practice courage. And I think in a way, this kind of overlaps with the first 2 tips a little bit, because essentially you need courage to admit that you are responsible for your life, and you need courage to dive deeper into yourself and to really experience your feelings, to understand yourself. So having courage means stepping out of your comfort zone to do something that you've never done before, to do something that you're maybe not very used to, and that scares you a little bit or a lot. Courage is really like a muscle. The more you do it, the more you can do more and more of it. So let me give you an example. I am actually someone who grew up being very shy. I do not like to be in the spotlight at all. At parties, I find comfort when I'm in a group of people, not when I'm in the center of the attention, when all eyes are on me. I was that person who never changes her profile picture on Facebook because I was just so conscious about it. I think it was so in like 2014. So when I decided to start Daily Living and to start my own blog, it was terrifying. I haven't even changed my profile picture on Facebook since 2014, and now I need to share my thoughts and my ideas. I have to post pictures of myself, and now I'm speaking out to everyone in the world and let them hear my voice. It's crazy. So none of this has been easy for me, but I just know that if I want to really live a daring life and to really create a life that I want to live, this is what I have to do. And I'm not asking you to, quit your job tomorrow and move to a foreign country. You just need to take baby steps. I started with just posting one photo on Instagram, writing some small captions. Then I started creating more and more of those photos. Then I created a blog. And then now I'm recording my first podcast episode. You don't need to take giant leaps if you don't want to. Whenever I'm afraid of something, I tell myself that, okay, Shirley, you just need to do one thing that you are scared of today. Just one thing. It will feel very scary and very uncomfortable at first, but I can guarantee you, the more you practice, the more you can be bold and really not make those things mean so much to you and to really live a life you desire for yourself. So maybe think about right now, what is that one thing that you can do right now to step out of your comfort zone? Is it maybe starting a website to put yourself out there? Or is it saying no to someone? Or maybe it is asking for a raise, or starting to do a research about how you can go on a solo trip to Africa. Just anything. Think about what is one thing that you can do right now that is a little bit out of your comfort zone, and just go do that. So to recap, 3 ways that you can start living a more daring life. The first tip is to admit that you are fully responsible for your life, not your parents, not your teachers. You are fully responsible for it. And the second tip is to understand yourself more and really take actions to build a stronger self-awareness. Some tips that you can try is practice journaling and writing out your thoughts, or getting into personal development books or a podcast, or you can also check out my blog. I have a lot of blog posts on there related to personal development. And the third tip is to practice courage every single day. And there you have it. Thank you for listening to the first ever episode of the Daring Living podcast. What do you think? Are you taking actions today to live a daring life? I would love to hear your thoughts. Feel free to tag me on Instagram at Daring Living on your story and let me know what you think. Also, if you find this episode meaningful, please share this episode with a friend or leave me a ratings and review on iTunes, because this helps so much for podcasts to show up on iTunes and have more people to discover the show. I love you all so much. Have an amazing week, and I will see you next time.